everybody to the work session here in Idaho Springs for June 12th, 2023. We only have two things, but we may have to push a second one. I would like to welcome our police chief Busick for the police administrative update. He really needs some council direction on this. Chief Cindy, very long and just wonderful history with our department. I think she's the longest serving employee with more than 20 years, but she's retiring, correct?
Right. So Mayor, Council, what's happening is Cindy Tooling has worked for the police department, the longest tenured city employee. I believe she's at 23, 24 years with the city. Has decided that she's ready to move towards retirement, and she at least was we talked about it a little bit, and she was willing to give me fair notice, right? And part of that is her job is so critical in what she does as far as processing all of our reports, our citations, dealing with the district attorney's office and getting all the materials to the district attorney's office. Danielle does some of these things as well, but Cindy really does the brunt of the actual records work at the police department. And what I would like to do and what I'm proposing to council is to advertise and open up that position, open up her position in a timely manner. And so that the amount of training that's going to take a new person is going to be months. It's going to take months of she also manages the sex offender registry here in Idaho Springs. I mean, she deals with NCIC and insert information, and which is our national database. I mean, the list goes on as far as her experience and her retention and how what we do with our retention and how we manage retention for serious crimes versus retention for a speeding ticket. And then how that works with our body camera system. And so it's a fairly complex and critical part of our department. In fact, she knows way more about this stuff than I'm not going to be able to train the next records person for the police department, at least not sufficiently. So with that, we currently still have one officer opening, which we're trying to fill, but we don't have any applications at this point. So what I'm proposing is that we're allowed to overhire, basically open up her position, and estimating in a month and a half by the time somebody applies and goes through a background, and go ahead and hire somebody for her position so that they can sit right there in the same office and learn her job. And she also is planning on using some of her vacation. So I don't expect to see her around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we really need to kind of work towards having a smooth transition. So I need council's direction and approval to do that, because obviously we're only authorized a certain number of positions. So that's what I wanted to bring today.
So yes. Is Danielle possible?
I've spoken with her about that, and she's not as interested in moving to those job responsibilities.
Okay, so if she's not, could she take on some of the responsibility? Have you had a discussion about that?
She can take on some of those.
So we can
those
share some of Cindy's current responsibilities.
She can, but I've also have. I'm sorry.
On a permanent basis?
Not on a permanent basis, because there's other things that we're working on. The city just purchased and has gotten employees, staff trained on a Voyant alert system, which is a communication tool the city's going to try to start using to communicate to the general public. And there's a police department basically part of that module for emergencies, but then also just information. And so that was one of the things that I was working with Danielle on, to take on that new responsibility. So as a staff, I can see and with what we have going on and with body camera footage and potentially in-car camera footage, which I'll talk to council, we talk budgets down the road, those job duties are being stressed, meaning she can help, but not a long-term transition. Right.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think we absolutely move forward.
Yeah.
I will say at this point, it
devil's
would very likely be a budget neutral, right?
Yeah.
The budget neutral, because we don't have an
More
officer.
of the time we have, the better.
I would, in all honesty, no.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Chief, I imagine it's a good job local for a local.
Certainly, that would be great.
Yeah.
If we can find the right candidate,
Right,
sure.
absolutely. I mean, but it's a good paying, city job is what I was kind of alluding to.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sure.
Or do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous then. Thank you,
Okay.
chief.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
I'll thank you.
All right, I think, we still have 5 minutes. Can we, if we ran maybe 10 minutes long,
Is that, if that's okay, I think we could,
I mean, I
Start
think
the
10 minutes
conversation.
is doable.
okay,
I think so.
If we can do justice to food trucks and 15.
sure. I'm gonna let Wonder drive this conversation. What I wanted, yeah, what we wanted to do was bring a conversation to city council about our food truck regulations. There's been some things that have happened recently that make us think that we need to look at them. One is that we've had a high number of applications, much higher than we have ever since I've been here. And the second is that we've discovered some, I'm just gonna go ahead and call them loopholes in our code that create outcomes that I don't think are necessarily what we're intending. And so Wonder has done a lot of research about different regulations in different communities. That's what you had in your packet. And our ultimate question here is would council like us to start looking at a package of regulations for food trucks that might be a little bit different than we have that could address some of these issues? But do you want to just kind of talk about what you've got and problems you've been seeing and everything? Or?
Yeah, maybe not just problems, just like you said, a lot of loopholes. There really aren't any specific regulations on food trucks in particular. It's more on solicitors and vendors. So I did research on other municipalities on that currently license a lot of food trucks and just kind of looked at what their boards thought was important to have regulated in regards to food trucks, like hooking up to public utilities, releasing greater black water, signage, music, and such things. So I know that there's a lot of red in the packet. Those are just like points, every point I could find that I thought might be of interest to make a rule, just to make sure that it's safe and, you know, good for town and everything. So I know it looks like a lot, but just like if you guys could think about what is important to you, to what we regulate in regards to food trucks, like noise or gray water or hooking up to water and stuff like that, maybe we could talk again and have more.
Well, do
time.
they have a business, don't they need a business license to operate in town?
Not always. And that's one of our big
That's the
loopholes,
problem.
is if you're a nonprofit, you don't have to have a business license or a vendor's license, which means you don't have to have a health inspection.
Oh,
So that's a
See.
big problem.
big problems.
Yeah, the other thing is,
Serious.
Inspection doesn't go on
Exactly.
every year.
we,
There's a whole series of things that it's not in the code. Denver's got probably the best one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I also, I kind of remember this at a planning commission, that we had a discussion about food trucks way before I left
We
planning,
did.
before.
I
And it
remember that
was
too.
that they should never be in competition with
Right,
any
right, and it
existing
was mostly
business.
downtown, there's a prohibition on it. One of the problems that I've seen from planning perspective though is, for instance, say I want to put food truck on a private property, we allow that, that's cool. But the problem is what if that property is being used for a business? It has specific parking requirements and site layout requirements that are required. So if I have a food truck in there, that's gonna mean more cars, and I'm gonna put my trash can somewhere. One issue we've had is, like, how close can a food truck be to a building? What causes the fire damage? Are you allowed to put it in an encroachment area of the city? Or do we want to correct, and the other thing with the parking that we have, you could potentially put them in the parking lots here. That's not in the historic district.
Right.
Which is maybe not the intention exactly what we wanted, but we want to try to create, you know, our parking spaces have a lot of value in different ways. Like, we need to have resident parking, we need to have, you know, we have our commercial parking spaces that we use, all of these things. And if we start sticking essentially businesses in every single parking space, it creates bigger problems for us than.
Right.
But that being said, we do hear from residents quite frequently that they like having food trucks in the city. It's just a matter of like, how do we talk about that? And, you know, they've been at the ball fields before. That's been something we've been able to work out with our current code. But I think generally what Wonder and I have experienced is there's been like a couple of them that have come up where we're like, we just don't even have like the tools to deal with what you're asking us to do whatsoever.
Barbecue.
Yeah, he's had some interesting things that have come up with him. One was he wanted to locate on the city street over there by the old subway. And that's okay in our code, but how do you orient that truck? What's the safest? Does it face traffic or does it face the building? And then like, where does the trash can go? Where do they park? Because that's really, I mean, the intention of that parking is for park parking, which, you know, gets a little bit constrained sometimes. So do we have any places that we don't want them to be? And if they do, like some of them have like things like they can't be there longer than X amount of hours. And we basically say, if you're on private, you get vendors or no, right? Yeah.
No. Not needed for private property.
just business license.
Yeah.
And then if you're on city, you need a vendor's
Vendor
license.
on top of this.
And that lasts for a pretty long time compared to some of your other like regs you found, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Wonder when you were looking at cities our size and like.
I tried to.
I know it's difficult.
Yeah, I try to, and there are, like, Mead has some, Telluride, Mead had a really good one, Denver had some good ones. And so I just kind of was like, oh, I hadn't seen that before, and I just kind of put them all in
So-
this grid.
I assume that you got a lot of these red lines from other
That is correct.
municipalities. But
That's correct.
Jonathan is now leading on to saying that we have a lot of city-specific things. that
The
we have to
black is
address.
ours, which is not very much,
No,
and nothing on
But
food trucks.
that needs expanded,
Right, correct,
and we need to know how to expand.
right, on what we want,
Well, I like similar cities, and right now, off the top of my head, I always go to Salida and Fruta. These are good places to look, because they're similar kind of economies as our tourist base, small downtowns. So, and I know that there's a couple in both of those places, and I'm sure that their rules are very strict.
I think Fruta calls it a temporary use, so it goes like conditional temporary use versus a food truck license. So different municipalities look at it as something different
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
so I saw a lot of different things, but I will look.
yeah, they even have like hair trucks, like where you go and get your hair cut. Yeah, so
But
if
there's
they're
so many things there.
If they're moving around the city though,
They're not, they're actually,
not.
they're in the same spot.
say, all the time.
All the time.
Okay, that was.
And that's what our code says, our code says you're licensed for one
One spot,
location,
but-
don't get a cruise around.
But a loophole is if you have like 3 spots, you could get license on each of those spots,
Correct.
potentially,
Okay.
Correct.
which is what we went into recently.
Well,
Right.
Sugar, you've
Right.
done a great job on this so far.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, that's a lot of work.
We may have further conversation with planning commission because of the ordinance changes and everything, but
Right.
we were just hoping for direction about whether or not you guys wanted us to pursue some of
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
that's a lot of scary right there.
And the town with the, that started by where the mayor used to.
Yeah.
Is you all copacetic or?
No.
I didn't think so.
In fact, I saw it was gone today.
It was
Yeah.
going to, yeah.
That's right.
He has a
As it should
license to
be.
operate, but he didn't have a license to have his food truck where it was. That patio is actually city property. And so it's required to have like certain, what's called an encroachment agreement, which is a revocable agreement that's supposed to be annually renewed. And we do that with several businesses, but there was some challenges because of that, the fencing, the truck needs to be a safe distance from the building. And so we were trying to work with him on that and it's just, yeah.
Yeah,
So
He's not-
just didn't
is he
work
the one
out for
that's-
the encroachment.
That's gonna open up that place, or is that someone else? Is it?
He, there,
Or is that it?
I
It's
don't,
his
yeah,
intention.
right,
Yes.
we haven't got a
He owns it.
land use
He
application.
leases it. He has a year lease from a current owners to operate.
And I just want to make sure you heard what Jeremy said.
I'm sorry.
It has to be 10 feet
Mhm.
and they've been there 3 times. So tell them about it.
We were there last weekend again, so not trying to pick on food trucks. Food
Yeah,
trucks are-
exactly.
Need to be highly regulated.
We don't wanna make
You need to
it
have a car fire inspection to be in the city.
We had
Well, we
told
wanna
him,
follow
he could
the rules,
operate on
so-
the parking spaces too on the east side until he
You can be in the
decides.
parking spaces,
Yeah.
It's just- there's a distance requirement.
Yeah, that's what we were
um,
trying to,
With fire code, and that's, we've been in 3 times for him, we were there for the one at the rec center like 3 weeks ago, same problem.
Real quick, though, while we're on that subject, there's a hot dog stand or something trying to open up. And it seems like, and I don't know the guy, never spoke to the guy, but from what I hear, he's really getting a lot of grief from whoever does our inspection.
that would be
That-
no wonder.
And that's really not true.
Yeah.
He just passed his final inspection, so you got grocery shopping to do. He has a business license to
Yeah.
open.
What's
He's
the-
ready to
Yeah,
open. As far as the city goes, he's asking.
Yeah, he had to do
You're
a.
the one that went in there and said you need to do this and that.
No, well, the building code necessitates certain things when that happens and it had been empty. And this kind of was saying about the other, that sometimes in properties, we have to have a change in occupancy, which requires a code analysis. This property to operate needed like some significant electrical upgrades and upgrades to the kitchen to be fire safe.
Right.
And that took them a long time to get through the process. I know it was said on Facebook, but it's not 100%
No,
accurate.
I
Yeah.
spoke to an individual that knows him and I took everything
Yeah.
I had to say.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get
Curious
open,
because-
we're excited to get hot dogs there too.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't
Yeah.
know how much
Oh,
money that
Chicago.
guy has, but we tell him it's from a.
Yeah, we want to make sure that
and I-
we have some limitations on legally what we're allowed to do with building code.
Okay.
And so our building department works pretty hard to make sure that we have buildings that are up to code. And sometimes what happens is you get people who are real good at making hot dogs and not so good at figuring out how to make the building code work.
Right.
And so we try to help people in that situation, but there's only so much we can do from a
Yeah,
we try, but
it's
there's
not
a,
their fault, it's
Yeah.
planning and whoever creates the
I'm not
code, it's
fault-
the
Well, yeah,
fault.
finding a
I feel like
contractor.
it's not
and
fault,
paying a
it's all
contractor.
I'm not faulting
I'm
anybody.
just saying, there's a reason that you have really strict codes on a 150-year-old
I
building.
agree.
Just saying,
Find that
just put that out there. It's like scary.
That's the way we can
Yeah.
get it.
I'm gonna be for some
Old buildings
language.
can be terrifying.
Wonder, since you got to drive this whole thing, did you drive some street tacos?
I hope so, and we're looking for like a elote would be great. I mean.
I want the frozen lemonade. Get that working for me.
So, would council be comfortable giving direction,
Yes,
for more, research, into this? Specifically, similar sized communities and what they had adopted to try to get to some of the answers that were in Wonder's, red,
Yeah.
like 2/3 of the submission.
I would like to think that when we got done, the rules would be very tight.
yeah,
Yeah, and clear.
yeah, clear is great.
With fire authority, or that stands on
We'll,
its own.
we'll help you with fire code.
All right.
There's
Just make sure that we have that
Stands on
review.
its own, but-
Yeah.
Denver policy, if you bring 99% of that over, you're completely compliant with fire code.
Okay.
It mirrors it almost word for word.
All right, do you need anything further from council?
No, that was
Do you
great.
have direction? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Well, thank you, council. It is 7:06. Let's take a few minutes and, we'll reconvene in our regular meeting at 7:10.
I just want to make it reasonable. Like,
We don't wanna make it impossible.
Yeah.
You gotta appreciate it. I don't know.
good job. We can do that. I can put my first stuff.
You did all of those things? All those red things?
Make it sound so safe.
All right. I quit reading it.
I know, that's what I mean, it was a lot. That's the problem, is sometimes it's too much. It like,
Park right here.
Oh,
Does that seem like good to you? I like all that.
Yeah, you got like super aggressive. He was driving and I was like, dude, you're on the road. Oh my God, you're on the leash. I never say that, by the way. I never say. I'm never.
That's the biggest.
he's in touch.
I know. Yeah. Is her name start with an M? Yeah. I knew that. I don't even know why I asked. I already knew. I was like, instead of a rat. Oh, I got. I didn't even know what that was. I'm not even opening my computer.
I did get that. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you guys. I called you today. You already heard about it, so. It's this. I know, and I told her, I'm like, I told these guys when I was talking to you, you went from the 7 to like a 12. I work at a library. I have to talk nights all day long.
I mean, not right away.
You guys can speak in there.
Starving.
Come on, get in there so I can get off my more food.
Yeah.
Starving. Oh, I'm very happy for them. I'm excited. Chop, chop. You got like a 3-minute bag. I want to celebrate. Like, why are you getting
Todd, I won't go back here.
We'll just figure out everything like
Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't go back.
No, just do a follow-up and we'll be done.
Just
Well, let's go for the record.
Such a them, you know?
I think my recommendation is one. Yeah, it was really fast. And I was lonely, because I could read like.
We landed on a torrential downpour last night, well, 3 hours. ago. The whole way, on the whole drive up.
Miserable.
More lightning, more rain, we got home like 1:30 in the morning.
Where were you?
Oh, we went to Houston for 4 days.
Nice, was it a good time?
Well, the weather cooperated, which is rare this time of year.
Right, especially down there. when
I
you
won't,
get flooded on your hips.
I won't be going again until November or.
Oh, yeah, Texas. Recent. I actually was going through all these old photos over the weekend, and we had done a road trip to Texas, to San Antonio for a friend's wedding. I went to, before I go on campus, and tell about it. We were very young, and we did not enjoy our stay in Texas. So at the Texas border, we moved it, and we said, on our tushies, we paid tax. And it was a big old, 3 moves, it was awesome. I have a picture of it, I just found it last night. I can't post it. I would if I was 12 years younger. I won't. I know it's fun. Now, if it's today, I'm gonna get my ass shot. Oh, I know, it's really the same thing, Scott, I'm just not as good at it. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God. We got very nice. I know, is it on yet?
I'll just say that right now.
Hey, Chuck, my plan is to do them all, so you guys let me roll and we can be out of here in like 10 minutes.
Jonathan, just let me know, no rush.
We're live.
Okay, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in at 7:12 p.m. for the Idaho Springs regular city council meeting for June 12th, 2023. And it is 7:12. Roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Here.
Kate Collier.
Here.
Scott Pennell.
Here.
Mark Cacavelli.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
John Curtis. Jeremy Jones. Thank you.
All please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for June 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second? Second from Art. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest? All right, hearing none, I will move on to approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from May 22nd, 2023.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second? And a second from Jeremy. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We will move to the bills. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the bills to June 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Kate. Do I have a second? And a second from Jeremy. Any discussion of the bills?
I have one quick
Yes.
question. I was just curious on the McDonald Farms, I'm assuming the pickup from our wastewater.
Right.
We're getting charged overweight.
Jimmy, it's about 30% of a $1,400 bill. And Ed, I saw your hand go up. You shed a light on that?
All right, so what they do is they'll charge you for the dumpster. And then the overweight charge is additional that of over what a normal dumpster would charge. So the first charge on there, do you have the receipt?
Yeah.
Where the first charge on there is for like 4 tons of stuff in the dumpster.
Okay.
Well, then if we put an additional 9 tons in the dumpster, it's less per ton to fill the dumpster all the way.
Then having like a fourth trip
Yeah, because
for
a
the month
truck,
or something.
because a truck can haul, was it 17 tons or 13 tons on the road.
Okay.
So if they charge for 4, and then we have the other like 9 tons, is
Right.
actually less per ton, the overweight fee than it is for the first 4 tons.
I guess my big question was, is that like, are these guys getting hammered somewhere between here and there? You know, with an overweight ticket or something? Or are they intentionally picking up heavy and then recharging us? Right? Because the cost of it would warrant like a fourth trip into the city.
Right, well.
But that, you explained it, Ed, I'm fine. I just didn't know if we were getting hammered for their negligence on running too heavy.
But Ed, I thought that was a good explanation. So
Yes,
We pay, I don't know, it's averaging like about another $425.
right.
It's cheaper than having an additional
Right.
dumpster just to try to avoid the
But,
overweight.
I mean, these are, sounds like standard fees, but if their wording on there, I can
Was
see why Jimmy's asking this question, because it says overcharge.
Yeah, it's an
So the
overweight.
wording makes it sound like we did something to
Overweight,
make
yeah.
it cost more than normal.
Correct. I didn't know if
But
it
this is
was,
like their standard.
Yeah.
wording, it sounds like.
there you go.
Right.
I got nothing else.
And
Thank
just
you,
so you
sir.
know, the first bill I ever saw, I called and asked them the exact same question that you did.
All right, cool.
And I got the
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you. That
Thank you very much.
was very good.
Yeah, for sure.
Any further questions on the bills? All right, hearing none, roll call. Oh, sorry, Kate.
No, I was gonna raise my hand.
All right, roll call, please.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Here.
Scott
Yes.
Pennell.
Here, yes.
Mark Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
John Curtis. Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is public comment, and I think we have at least one.
Okay, so my name is Alexia Weaver and my address is 2130 Riverside Drive, Idaho Springs.
Hey, let me say welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
allowing me
and
to be
spending a
here.
few minutes with us. And do you have to swear her in?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are very anxious to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so again, my name is Alexia Weaver and I have Kaya Mountain Collective here in Idaho Springs. I've had my shop for about 10 years. And I live here in town. So this past Saturday, I was working in my shop at 1546 Minor Street. A gentleman from the Wild Bunch came in. We exchanged greetings and I told him about a piece of art that he was looking at. I then went on with my work. A few moments later, he approached me at my checkout counter and asked if he could show me something, and I said, sure. He proceeded to pull a bullet out of his pocket and explain to me that it was a real bullet and set it down on my counter. He then said, now, since you're going around telling people we are firing off real guns, I am going to show you the difference between a real bullet and a fake bullet. He went on to pull a fake bullet out of his pocket and set it down on my counter. I was quite bewildered, seeing as how I have only ever told people that they are doing reenactments, and I have never told anyone, nor have I heard anyone else say that they are firing off real guns, and which I told him. I also told him that yes, I did not like them doing it right in front of my shop last summer and without warning because it was frightening for some people, but that I was happy with the agreement and the compromise that the city made with the Wild Bunch last summer and doing it behind the train. I have also sent people to go and watch their reenactments. So where he got that bit of information that I was telling people he was firing real guns, I have no idea. He went on to say again that that was exactly why I needed to be educated on the difference between a real bullet and a fake bullet, a real gun and a fake gun. He proceeded to pull a gun out of his vest to explain the difference between a fake gun and a real gun to me. And he did go on to tell me that the gun that he pulled out was fake. During this time, he had his fake gun pointed directly at me. He picked the fake bullet up off the counter. He opens the chamber of his gun and begins to put the fake bullet in the gun. I asked him to not point his fake gun at me. And then I also told him that I was uncomfortable and I was upset and I asked him to leave. At some point in time, a second gentleman from the Wild Bunch had come into my shop, and then they both sat there and told me that I just wasn't listening to them. My 10-year-old was at the shop that day. She heard arguing and came out of the back to see a gentleman loading a gun in my store with his gun pointed at me, which was frightening for her. It was completely inappropriate for them to come into my shop while I was working, lay bullets on my counter, accuse me of saying something I never did, tell me that what I needed to be educated on, and during an already heated conversation, feel that it was necessary to pull out a gun to continue to educate me. I am at a loss and I am extremely upset by what happened, given this incident and their failure to demonstrate proper gun safety at all times outside of their reenactment. I am asking that the city terminate their agreement with the Wild Bunch and not allow them to perform and do their reenactments here. It was very bizarre, very inappropriate. It came out of nowhere. It felt like they were looking for a fight. And this was all while I was at work. So,
Am I allowed to ask Lexi one question just for clarification? Lexi, were you alone with you and your daughter just in the shop?
yes, it was myself, my daughter, and then my daughter's friend. So there were two 10-year-olds that came out of the back and saw that happening. And after they left, I had to ask them, I told them that I was upset. I told them that I was uncomfortable and I asked them to leave. And they sat there and they continued to argue with me and tell me that I just wasn't listening. And I had to ask them to leave the shop 2 more times before they actually left. And then that's when my daughter, I turned around and looked at her and she was like, that was scary. I walked out of the back and I saw a man with a gun. So.
And please understand that if there is not back and forth questions with council, that's very normal. This is our time to listen.
Yes.
And I think it always takes guts to speak publicly, particularly about a sensitive topic. You know, you put yourself out there, and I really sincerely thank you for taking the time to bring council and myself up to speed on this incident, because we did not know.
Yes.
Was you? Lexi, I think you. Sorry, go ahead.
I got. You know, this is a public quorum, so if they get wind of this going on, they may. I hope you would call 911 the next time if they reappear.
I think Lexi's.
Oh,
has
yeah,
been advised
I've
to
been
talk to
in
the chief.
contact with the police department. I don't wish to file charges, but I don't want to see them. I mean, they're not practicing proper gun safety. There are kids, there are teenagers, there are adults, there are people coming in at all times outside of their reenactment. There is never a time that they should be pointing a gun at someone. And yes, he told me it was a fake gun, but it looks like a real gun.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying next time I wouldn't.
There better not be a next time.
There may be.
Yeah, well, I asked them to leave. I asked them to leave pretty quickly. And it definitely brought up some big feelings, and I was just trying to be calm, and there was a lot going through my head. It was very sad.
Well, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Lexi. Thanks for coming in.
All right, any unscheduled public comment? No? Okay, nothing for liquor licensing authority. Anything with finance officer tonight?
Nothing.
Jonathan, right, Lorraine was just with us briefly.
rejoin us.
Okay. We have no resolutions. We have no ordinance first reading. No ordinance second reading. City attorney is Carmen, is she still with us?
No, sir.
Okay, All right, city administrator had no, staff report. Jonathan, nothing further, beyond your report?
No, sir.
Okay. And, Wonder, I thought that was a really good, staff report.
Yeah, for sure. Right on.
I don't know about the rest of council. It was a little disappointing that the sales tax numbers were not a little bit higher. You know, because we really need to be at 25% just to even tread water with the additional 1 cent. Sales tax. So we're you know, a couple percent off of treading water. Hopefully that will not be a trend. But thank you, Wonder. Chief, no request. Didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to share. I thought that was a good Lyle Waller's report. And just to toot our own horn for a minute, one thing I just wanted to emphasize is that the Idaho Springs Police Department is 150 years old this year.
Yeah.
Yep. So Chief has commemorative badges that were made up, and also when you keep in mind how small our department is, it's kind of unbelievable that we have won, our department has won Officer of the Year award 3 out of 4 years.
Yeah, almost every year. I was gonna say,
Right,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
mean,
we're killing it.
our already small
Yeah, man.
department has been really diminished, right? Because we've been trying to hire and stuff, you know, so. Anyway,
One quick thing.
yes, yes.
Do you have any challenge coins made up, or is that,
We don't at this point, but that's something we're looking at.
should we think about that, and see what
We
the
are,
cost? maybe?
we are
Yeah,
looking
'cause
at doing that.
of course,
there's,
I collect those and I love that one.
there's a bit of a cost, but I
Well,
think
yeah, of
based
course.
on the year, we were looking at doing something like that.
I know, right?
So, yeah, so we're looking at that.
Cool,
I think more to come on that.
awesome, thank you, sir.
Good deal. Paul, nothing further to share?
I did not have any requests, and I apologize for not putting in a report. We've been battling Montaigne. the last,
I
last
think we're
week.
good, yes.
So, again, I apologize. We do, we have 2 new hires. They're both doing great, but we're still, getting that training in. Everybody's learning their jobs here, so.
Well, excellent. I'm glad to hear that, and that we actually have to.
And I to commend all the city heads over there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed came into my shop the other day and was concerned about what he thought was maybe a complaint that had come from me, and he was like thorough through everything, but it actually wasn't me, it was my neighbor. And yeah, so thank goodness, but he was really concerned, not that it was just me, but of the complaint, so. He was coming down with stats for the numbers, et cetera, which was totally awesome, I thought. Paul's done a great job so far as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Chief, of course, he's,
And,
he's at the helm, so.
Ed, I want to thank you for sharing that inspection report. It went
Yes.
on for about 10 pages and was very detailed.
Yeah.
So I know some things we'll be trying to comply with, I think by July 18th.
Right, there's a few things we need to put out public notices for.
Yep.
But 2 of the things were resolved immediately before she even put out the report. The state wants us to do public notifications on anyway. And then another one of the things was satisfied immediately thereafter, and I expect the other 2 to be resolved within 30 days.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And nothing else to report tonight?
Well, I had that, I included in here a copy of a whole list of questions that I'd like to send out to everybody for industrial pretreatment. Ever since that pink water
Yeah.
issue, and it turned out that like the car wash was like the ultimate perfection thing of why we caught that so quickly. But if it would have been somewhere else where we didn't have that, it would probably be a good idea that if we had in our files, like some kind of inventory that people were having. So if we did wind up to a problem, be like, well, this is what we're having the problem with. Where could that come from? And we could go through our files and say, well, Jimmy's got a bunch of oil. Let's go ask him and see what's going on.
You haven't caught me yet, so.
It's more about those concentrated concentrated chemicals. We had this a few years ago as well with soap. They killed a reactor and it took us, we were fortunate enough to find them as well because the containers were in their dumpster.
And they were dumping a bunch of laundry soap, right?
Right.
Laundry
But
soap.
it's highly concentrated
Yeah.
soaps. And these are the concerns that we have because the end user of that product doesn't realize how much damage they can do.
Right. Right.
Right, and then there's been other times where mysterious things happen in the plant and we're just not really sure
Mhm.
where or how, you know, like the pH will drop suddenly. And we don't have any idea of where to even look,
Having a
you know,
list of those.
having a list of places that have chemicals that will affect the system would benefit us in tracking things down and then fixing it ultimately.
Well, you guys done a great job, so.
Yeah.
You definitely deserve a round of applause again, I think so.
All right.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything. I just want to ask council, is there anything else anybody would like to share before we adjourn?
We're closed Monday for Juneteenth.
Oh, that's
We get
right.
another
And
holiday.
this is our first year.
Correct.
That's right. Enjoy the additional day off and a longer weekend.
What's that celebration about?
Freedom.
Freedom.
Yep, emancipation.
Yep. The emancipation
All right.
for all.
So we are going to have the next 2 weeks off, the next regular council meeting won't be until the 26th of this month. I want to thank everybody and we'll call it adjourned at 7:31.
Nuggets are playing.